versus Mike, the nut flush draw.
You got this, and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast.
Why you out of breath?
I have hand sanitizer in my eye! It's burning! What just happened?
I know anybody that was watching the countdown saw Conrad running around like a madman right before here. I don't know what you did. He jumped out of his seat. He ran downstairs, ran back up, ran into the bathroom, back. I don't know what you did to your eyes, but
I was putting hand sanitizer and just kind of
put hand sanitizer in your eyes. All right.
No, I went like this, and it just went in my face.
You splashed it. Yeah.
And now I have a burning eye.
This is what happens when you watch in the muck hand in pre-production. It's just, it was so bad that Connie had to rinse out his eyes.
Is this going to be a lesson to Connie not to wait until 10 seconds before the podcast before going to the bathroom? Or do we think Conrad's going to never learn any lesson from this at all?
It's like we taught you nothing.
Yeah.
To be fair, I had to go, and it was a last second thing. And well, you know, what else am I going to go?
It's like you didn't know you were going to be on a podcast.
I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
Matt Hunt in the captain seat today.
Yeah,
huh?
I am.
I see
I'm in,
that. You
I'm,
look
I'm in
good.
a
He assumed
weird,
the Berkey role. It's like you didn't know you were going to be on a podcast.
I'm in an unfamiliar role here, but that's fine. Berkey decided not to show. He's too busy winning money or trying to win money.
I mean, shit's getting popping. Berkey might win a lot of money today.
He might.
He's got Landy on the fucking.
Yeah, Berkey might win a lot of money today.
Well,
I think our boy Lando is.
Lando.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
getting
Berkey's got a
popping.
nice piece of that.
Oh, that's right.
And all of Lando's money is partially Berkey's money.
Landon could win this event, and then Berkey have a good day at the cash streets, and Berkey could end up winning more money than Landon.
Pretty sick.
Or Berkey could lose in the cash streets and still have a winning day.
Yeah,
That's a nice one.
right.
Or he can win in the cash streets.
And still have a losing day. I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
Sorry.
Landon can win. He can lose in the cash streets and have a losing day.
Yeah.
Oh, so
that's
he,
true. Landon could
could
win the
get
whole
buried.
tournament, and Berkey could have a losing day.
So he could lose
Unfortunately.
so much cash that it actually outweighs his portion of the 850K that Landon could win. Yeah,
Right.
that would be a big losing day, but it could happen. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But shit
not.
happens. We're just talking about the outcomes of what could happen, the possibilities.
It's a big day. It's a big day for.
I'm
for
pretty
our boy.
excited to him. I actually just got 5 body bags delivered to the Luxor.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get that shit popping. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be some blood out there.
I mean, it's gonna be fun. This final table's kind of stacked.
I'm
It's
wondering
pretty
who's going to have
stacked.
the biggest rail.
It's gonna be close.
I know who's gonna have the loudest rail.
Well, that's
We're
gonna be.
going to have the drunkest rail. That's,
Listen,
I'm already like 5 beers deep.
oh, okay. Good boy.
Listen, it's gonna be kind of close because I mean, a lot of these people have
Who's our biggest
pretty big
competition? Is
crews
there
that-
another local? Is there another Vegas guy in there?
Jesse.
Jesse Lonis, right?
Jesse
Yeah.
Lonis.
Yeah.
But like everybody has all their friends there. Josh Reichardt has all his friends here. Like it's gonna be pretty big.
Of course, everybody's already
think
in
the
town
rail-
for the series.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's
I
like,
think it's gonna be rails are gonna be pretty big at this event.
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yo, Hunt,
Yes.
you out there getting it popping already, huh?
Well, if by that you mean playing standard spots in bounty tournaments, yeah.
That's the most Hunt answer that you could ever give. Like, if
Hunt's
you
out
mean
there
doing
getting
everything correctly, like just like the wizard said to do, then yes, I am getting it popping.
Hunt's out there getting it fucking freaky. Hunt, why don't you run us through his hand you played against Reiss yesterday?
All right, so Ryan Reiss sits down at my table in the 5K bounty. It's not really a bounty tournament, but there's a 10K bounty on the head of every past main event winner. So I'm at my table. Ryan Reiss sits down. Immediately, the whole scenario shifts because there's now one player at the table who has a 10K bounty on their head, and in a 5K, that matters a ton. And it completely shifts everyone's strategy. So I go from just normal, like deep stack early stage strategy to like, okay, I guess I'm opening 4X now on his big blind, which is what I did. So I was in the hijack, 7-6 of diamonds, open 4X. I cover him so I can get his bounty, which is why I have to like change my strategy completely. I open 4X. Blake Bond calls in the small blind, which is like basically going to be dead money because even though he's actually supposed to just never 3-bet in this spot because he doesn't want to shut Reiss out of the pot, but I don't expect him to know that. So I imagine it's just a pretty weak calling range. Reiss squeezes in the big blind. So I make it a 4X call, squeeze to like I don't know, 6X my open or something like that. And I just jam over the squeeze because there's such a massive incentive for me to like play an all-in pot against Reiss because of the huge overlay of a 10K bounty. He calls off with ace king, we lose, but you know we got it in a spot where you know we played a really big flip. We had live cards and we had the chance to just win a main event seat in the first 90 minutes of the World Series. So
Right.
that would have been a great outcome if we just win there, but we didn't. And you know, I think having run the hand in a bunch of different ways, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the jam. I think the main variable that everyone seems to be commenting on it is everyone's like, oh, Reiss is quite tight, like Reiss plays tight. And I haven't played enough with him to really know that. So
Well, does that even matter? Or how wide would you jam here?
I would have jammed most of my opening range, but I would have opened quite like a little bit tighter than normal.
Okay,
But that's the mistake that I actually would have made because when I ran the Sims, it doesn't want me to open tight. It wants me to open 60% of hands from the hijack because the bounty is that important. So I actually underestimated how important the bounty is.
Okay.
It wants me to, even if he has exclusively aces in his squeezing range, it wants me to never fold to the squeeze. Like I just play 100% call at a minimum. And then the funny thing is I had to tweak the sim a whole bunch just to make the spot mirror what actually happened, because it doesn't want him to ever play a non-all-in 3-bet. Yeah. It wants him to literally jam 170 bigs after it goes raise call, because he's supposed to get call. I'm supposed to call so wide. If he jams, I'm supposed to call 7-6 of diamonds. And it's just because of the bounty. It's because the bounty means so much. So I had to tweak it to make him 3-bet non-all-in. But even then, the range that he's supposed to 3-bet is like, he's supposed to 3-bet ace-7 suited for value and just call it off when I jam there. Now, if he doesn't do that, it makes me want to shift more towards call instead of jam with a lot of hands. But it's a spot where the jam is like one way or another, basically no matter what his range is for squeezing, jamming 7-6 of diamonds is making money. The question is just, is it making more money than calling? And if his range is really tight, then calling actually does better. But shutting Blake out of the pot is meaningful, because if I call, he's going to overcall at a very high frequency, and that decreases my chances of getting Reiss's bounty. Okay. And then, you know, just jamming, like I say, jamming is making a decent amount. Like it was making like $700, which in level 2 of a 5K is like a pretty decent margin to be making from jamming.
Okay, now let me ask you something. So it's level 2 of a 5K. It's like, where's the line on future game considerations here? Like that the bounty is 2x on Reiss's head. I
think there's just like a really, really minimal future game consideration, because number one, it's not going to be such a soft event that I'm going to have like some crazy edge in the late stages. And number two, we're so far from the end of the tournament. We're literally in level 2 that everything outside of the bounties, everything would be just basically chip EV play, right?
But this is a freeze out, I believe.
Yeah, it's a freeze out.
All right, so you're out of the tournament if you lose this hand. There's no like.
Well, I still had 20 bigs left, so you know that the fact that I cover him, it's not hand one. Like I cover him.
Well, you'd never play like that if you didn't cover him, because then you couldn't.
Precisely. Yeah. Exactly. If I didn't cover him, I would just play normally in that spot. Like I wouldn't even open 4x in that spot. So
well, it was funny because when you posted the hand history in the chat, you decided to leave out the caveat of Reiss being a bounty.
Well, I just assumed you guys knew that.
No, I'm reading this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to restudy my pre-flop charts in these tournament spots, because 7-6, 180 big blinds.
Right. That was definitely a pretty key element for it. But I guess I just like.
Well, then you said it like right after.
I forgot that maybe people weren't paying attention to the fact that there was a main event winner bounty. You know?
Right. No, because I wasn't playing that event, and then I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, what?
It's funny. I was talking about it, or Reiss was talking a little bit about it at the table, and all the main event winners got free rolled into this event.
That's awesome.
And he said they plan to run it every year. So winning the main event now comes with a 5K free roll every year for the rest of your life if they continue running this event. And not only that, but it's an insanely high value 5K because of the fact that there's a bounty on your head specifically.
Right. You got these guys shoving
7-6 and diamonds.
Right. No, I said this to Reiss after I jammed and he called. I was like, this is such an insanely high value event for you, like, because people have to do this. And I looked at the chip counts for day 2 today. There's like 100 people that made day 2, and there's like 10 main event winners.
Wow, yeah.
10 of the main event winners who played that event made day 2. Right. Like the chip leader is Kui Wen, who like hasn't played a tournament in 10 years since he won the main event, and he's just chip leading this thing because everybody is basically required to punt off to you.
Should you just play tight and wait for like good hands
as a chip leader?
No.
I'm sorry, as a main event winner. No, I think you should do the opposite. Like I was saying to Reiss after the hand, I was like, I wonder whether you're supposed to just 3-bet call off with like Queen Jack suited there. And he didn't really reply, to the point where I feel like he probably disagreed, but.
Well, I don't mean calling off in a certain spot, but I mean just like in general, should your ranges tighten up? Should you play like a knowing that you're gonna be in a good spot? Like
I think
the whole caveat of I'm gonna wait for a better spot. Well, in this situation, there's gonna be many spots presented to you.
Yeah, that is true, but I think what you're kind of speaking to there is it's not so much that you have to tighten up; it's just your ranges have to be much more linear.
Yeah,
like there was a spot where. I read in the Hands on Poker News, Dan Weinman, obviously last year's main event winner, there was a spot where he 3-bet jammed like 150 big blinds. It just went raise and he jammed ace queen for like 150 bigs and got called by 6s. You know, like you just have to, accept that everybody else's incentive is to play massive pots against you when they cover you, and therefore you can get insane value from hands that would never normally be able to get that value.
All your hands just go up in value.
Exactly,
linearly.
and you no longer really have any fold equity every time your stack is at risk,
right?
Because you're just forced to like go for value. So this is how a lot of bounty spots work out. If you look at PKOs, anyone with a huge bounty on their head in a PKO, you start like jamming queen high for value. Like you just jam like queen 10 suited pre-flop for pure value because they're supposed to fold never. Like they're never supposed to fold anything in their opening range or whatever. So like it's not quite that insane in this spot, but 2 buy-ins of bounty on your head in level 2 does mean you get to play huge pots like this, and obviously winning these huge pots early on allows you to accumulate a really big stack. And then it kind of flips on its head because once you cover everybody, nobody can bust you. So you no longer get all that value that you previously got, right? So it's like, it's definitely an interesting dynamic. And I would be fascinated to play a tournament sometime where there was a bounty on my head, but not on anybody else's. Cause it does alter the strategy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like
you wouldn't have those 7-6 of diamonds. I'll tell you that much.
Not if I honestly, if I was in Reiss's spot, I really don't know like how wide I would be willing to get it in there, because there's he doesn't know a lot about me. I've played with him once or twice, but like I don't imagine he really has any idea like how studied I am in bounties or anything like that. Because how could he?
Right. That's another consideration. You have to know, is your opponent playing optimally as well?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like that's like part of why I jammed the 7-6 of diamonds was because I mostly just assumed that he would at least recognize that his 3-bet call off range has to be quite wide there. Like I didn't expect him to ever like not be willing to get it in with like 8s, 9s, like ace jack suited, stuff like that. Maybe not as wide as ace 7 suited like the solver wants him to, but I thought he would get it in fairly wide. But just judging on how everybody seems to think he plays, like it seems to be pretty much the consensus that he probably wouldn't play that way. So, maybe in light of that, the jam with 7-6 of diamonds is not really a great option in comparison to calling. But one way or another, it was really difficult to find any kind of any kind of sim that I ran where it wasn't at least making money to jam. The main question was just, is it doing better than calling?
I mean, outside of like the how he normally plays, let's say just in this particular spot in this bounty tournament, like he has a bounty on his head, isn't it just like worth so much just to play nuts? Like in his spot, like is it like worth just to play that top left corner?
I mean, but then how? Like it all just comes down to like if you're looking at it that way, the hands just below the nuts like become the nuts, right? Like how at what point does the definition of the nuts end, right? Because
I
now
get what you're saying.
if he can 3-bet call off 8s there because he knows I'm jamming any pair, like the ability for me to just rip deuces and him to get it in against aces, which is I definitely would have ripped any pair here. There's no way I would ever not shove a pair. The EV of 3-bet calling off aces there when he can get 160 big blinds in good is insane. Yeah. Like it's such a high EV spot, and those spots just don't come along very often, right? So it's like if he was shallower and like he had 40 big blinds, now the EV of actually getting it in a little bit lighter is not quite as significant because there's only 40 big blinds that you can win. But when he's 150 big blinds deep and he has the ability to get it in against worse, like to get in that many chips against like a range that you're 80% against is so powerful, even in level 1 of a tournament. Because how often do you really get the chance to double up to 300 plus bigs? So like, I think it's weird because if he was a bit shallower, I think there's more of an argument for maybe not quite going as wild, but when he's deep and I'm still incentivized because I covered him by like 20 bigs, I'm still incentivized to like gamble the shit out of everything basically. Like there's a lot of reason I think for him to just benefit from playing really big pots here. And I would be really curious to see what was going on at some of the other tables that had the main event winners, because like I say, I did read that one hand history of Weinman getting ace queen off in for like 150 bigs and getting called by 6s.
Yeah,
but
from what I heard, it was fucking mayhem.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Melissa was saying that Laskowitz was had the table with two main event winners at the same table. So there's 2 bounties out there, and you just have to like go nuts for those bounties. So like it just counts for so much to be able to win 2 buy-ins in level 1, level 2, level 3. Of a tournament like that. It's like it's 100% ROI already, if you just pick up that bounty, you know? And it's especially when you consider that each of the players that has the bounty on them has been free rolled into the event. Like, they have a pretty big incentive to just like be kind of okay with just playing big pots and just getting value, you know? So like it's kind of a cool event. I really like the format, and I hope they keep doing this, because it's certainly going to be an interesting one to see how people play it as the iterations go through, you know?
Really quick question from Marley. It has to do with pre-flop.
Sure.
And we don't have to get into the weeds, but
Cool.
It says, I thought we were supposed to min open when the big blind has a big bounty because we want to incentivize a call. And then she wants to know if we should just be going 4x from early position and then min from late.
I think shifting it according to position is not necessarily what we want to do. And truthfully, I haven't run sims for like actually comparing different open sizes in these bounty events. The main reason I went 4x was just because even though we would normally be opening 2x, we're so deep that if I open 2x, even if I open 2x with 100% of hands, which like the sim might want to do if I change the open size, it's incredibly difficult to get stacks in. That's kind of the thing here. So I think if we were like 50 bigs deep, or some kind of stack size where we can still get stacks in easily after min raising, then it would make sense to just stick with a normal size. But when we're this deep and the bounty is this important, like part of the reason I 4x'd was because I feel like it's just super difficult to actually ever stack him otherwise.
You need to lower the SPR as much.
Basically, yeah. Like it was just, it wasn't really something, like I say, that I haven't had a chance to run a sim comparing the sizes, because it's really hard to compare open sizes at that depth because the tree gets so big. But it was basically just because I just need to create bigger pots against him. That's why I sized up. Specifically on his big blind. I wouldn't have sized up that much. I would have probably gone 3x if he was in another position, but when he's in the big blind, I just need to build big pots.
I mean, you had another interesting spot moments later, it seemed.
Oh yeah, that was fun. This was a complete opposite.
You go from jamming 7-6 of diamonds for a billion big blinds to 3-bet folding ace king off.
This was in a different tournament because I busted the 5K, went to the win, played the win 1K, and it went like European reg opens off like 45 bigs. I 3-bet ace king off of 30 bigs, and then Kathy Liebert in the big blind, like basically I made it 5,700 my 3-bet. She basically like snap makes it 21K, just like splashes out 21K.
Okay.
And she has like 80K, so she has 80 bigs or so. The Euro reg thinks for like maybe 5 to 10 seconds, gets it in for his 50 big blinds. And I'm just like, okay, for him to be comfortable getting it in against that snap cold 4-bet range from Kathy Liebert, like he does not have jacks there. Like he has queens plus, and probably queens he would have thought about a little bit longer. So I just folded ace king off. And Kathy showed down ace queen suited, but the Euro reg had kings. So like correctly folded.
Nice.
Was quite happy with that one. Was that?
No.
Did someone say
I said
ace?
nice.
Oh, I thought someone asked if you hit an ace.
No, I said very nice.
I did
very
not.
Nice.
I did not hit an ace. Kathy lost. So I would not have won that one if I got it in. But yeah, big adjustment from you're suddenly firing off like infinite big blinds in a 5K, and then you're in a 1K, and you're like, I guess I fold ace king.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just such a weird. Tournaments are so weird, man.
They are. You know, sometimes you just find yourself at a 3,500 final
Structure
table.
in the format.
Sitting 3 out of 6, you know, with 850K at
Yeah, sometimes you just have a lot of money that you can win. Let's fucking go, Landon.
And let's go, Landon. 4 o'clock today. We are going down to the Luxor or the HyperX Arena. And Landon's getting it popping. It's open to the public.
He loves that shirt, that hoodie.
Which one?
Every single time I see him, playing live poker, he's wearing that hoodie.
You think he's gonna wear that? Right now?
Almost guaranteed. I would say there's like 90% shot he's wearing the exact same hat and hoodie that he is in that photo.
I couldn't imagine.
If he doesn't have a sulfur white patch on, he's gonna have to come talk to the manager.
I was just about to say
Hold
that.
on, wait. What odds are
I already
we doing?
have my sulfur white shirt on. I'm ready to fucking
I
go.
brought my hoodie as well, so yeah.
Okay.
You guys want to laugh? So Landon had to get the patch approved, right? And he said this like right after, or Berkey had said this to Landon to get it done right after, after he final tabled. Yesterday
which
in the
is
chat.
Which is 1 month ago. One month ago.
It might have been like 2. Yesterday in the chat, he's like, does anybody know where the patch is? I needed to mention it. So I got to send it in. But, you know, shit happens. He's out there. There's 6 left. Dylan Smith is chip leading. PLO specialist. He has like 1.8 in earnings. And he seems, you know, pretty fucking good at poker.
Yeah, those PLO guys, they're smart, you know?
Yeah.
You got to be smart to avoid punting it off in PLO. It's very easy to punt it off in PLO, so yeah.
How many blinds does he have?
I'm actually not sure.
He's got
So he's
28.
got 28.4 million.
Okay.
And we're coming back to 200 big blind. 200K big blind. So
He's got 140 bigs.
Somebody do math.
piles.
142 bigs. That's a lot of bigs.
Yep, that is piles.
And
It's actually, this is the pretty tough final table.
Yeah.
Like, you got Josh Reichard in here. This kid's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
He has like 3.1 million in earnings.
He's got 100. Wow, they're deep, huh?
He's just all over the place. He literally plays every bird everywhere. He's just really fucking good at poker. You got Landon, Alex Queen. This guy's an East Coast legend. Like, I've never played with him or anything. I've just seen his name forever since like day one of looking at tournaments. Like when I
Pennsylvania
lived
guy.
over there. Yeah.
That's a good poker name as well. For your last name to be Queen, that's pretty good.
He actually just won the Borgata too.
yeah, this table is kind of silly.
You got Jesse. Fucking Jesse. Goddamn gorilla.
He's everywhere.
This kid just final tables everything. He just does it. Just gets it done. Gets it popping. I do not know Aaron, but he seems like he's the dark horse here.
Okay.
He's 628,000 to his
He's the short
Landon
stack?
mob. Yeah. Yes.
He
Coming with
looks like he
4
knows what
million.
he's doing. If I saw that face at my table, I'd be like, that looks like a reg. Like that does not look like a random fish who's out there just wailing. That looks like a guy who knows what he's doing.
You want to know what's unfortunate about this whole thing?
What's that?
This shit doesn't count for the crossbook.
I know.
Oh man, talk about getting buried from the start.
It's okay though because Landon's gonna just slam a bunch of final tables
Bex
anyway.
he escaped that one and just slid through the raindrops like on that one.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
really did.
About to start pouring.
Oh yeah.
Saw Landon K-Rap studying last night, watching old WPT streams.
That's a good person to study with.
Like
Can't
back from
really-
back like 2002.
I mean, just old. Yeah.
Hilarious. He's studying watching like
Gus Hansen.
Freddie
and,
Deeb.
Bubblefish Elliott.
Like, look, Gus Hansen,
Yep.
like all these guys are just like limping every hand. Like they're just studying that.
I'd say it was probably the Win WPT.
Yeah, that's probably a good
The
one.
10K.
Yeah,
Probably a good one to watch.
It's funny they play a lot of old footage in some of these big events, like the Win in December. Like they play all the old WPT footage on the screens in the tournament rooms, and I keep getting like distracted watching that because I'm just like, what are these hands that are going on? Like it's like 2004 and this stuff is happening where you're like, how has this hand gone 6 ways to a flop at the 6-handed final table? Like, you know, what's going on?
Let me ask you guys a question. How would you guys prepare for something like this? Let me start with Guapo.
God, how would I prepare for a WPT final table?
Yeah, playing for 850K. What would you do first?
I think I'd be so riddled with anxiety that I actually wouldn't study, and I'd be like, look,
Good strategy
I'd be
there,
like, no,
Guap.
I'm serious. I made it to the final table just playing my game. Like, I'm a little studied, and I don't think I would want to overwhelm myself with overthinking spots. But again, this is coming from being a nervous Nelly kind of person and not necessarily just not wanting to be prepared. So it's not
I
about
like that
not
take.
wanting to put in the work. It's about not changing what got me to the
I like
final
that take.
table.
What do you think, Brian?
I think I would try to find as much footage as I can on all the opponents, just to kind of get a feel how they play, if they're, you know, if they look like they're very studied, which I'm sure a lot of them are. And then I think I would be running as many ICM sims as possible, especially like if I was Landon, because you know that's like his wheelhouse. He memorizes these sims and he's very good at it. So I think you'd want to know all the spots you could possibly be in from, you know, 6 all the way down.
Yeah,
talk to me.
I think that's the right approach. I think you definitely have to run a lot of ICM sims. It's funny, I have a student, shout out to my student Danny Marks, who made the final table that plays out tomorrow.
Dope.
So he's going into that one. I think he's 4 out of 6 or
Nice.
5 out of 6. I think he has 19 bigs. So for spots like that, you have to know the stack size that you have. Like, you have to make sure that at least on that very first hand, no matter what happens, you should know by that point, like almost exactly what your strategy is going to look like. And on top of that, the advantage that someone like Landon has is he can run a bunch of post-flop ICM sims. So he can run a bunch of different spots through PO and understand exactly what the post-flop strategies are going to look like for different kind of configurations of stacks. And the other thing that I advise Danny on is you got to study heads up. Like, it's incredibly important in a spot like this that you don't get heads up and then make a bunch of mistakes, because a massive portion of your EV comes from when you get heads up, you want to be the guy who wins 55% of the time and not 50% of the time. Like that's a huge amount of EV attached to just that.
Yeah, it's the biggest pay jump.
Precisely. So you have to study heads up going into a big final table like this, and maybe even more so than anything else, because it's other than like just making sure that you don't punt 5 or 6 handed, the making sure that if you get heads up, you have the best EV possible. It just counts for so much. So studying heads up would certainly be something I would do.
We've had a few questions in the chat in terms of where people can watch. This isn't being streamed.
It is.
Oh, it is being streamed?
Yes.
There's a stream. Okay.
It's on YouTube.
Is it YouTube?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Pretty
Cool.
sure. Yeah, it's going to be like a half-hour delay. So I think it would start like 4:30, I believe.
Okay.
So, I personally, yes, I would study some. I would ask for help and like try to get a better understanding at things, but I don't think I would drown myself in it. Like I would probably take.
You're kind of like an in-between of
You're in
like
between,
what I
you're
said
in
and what
between
Guapa said.
me and Brian.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would definitely. And then it's not because of like I'd get in my head or anything along those lines, but like it's more of
Stick to what got you there?
No. Just
You don't want to overwhelm yourself,
Yeah,
and then maybe you like you
it's just
you make
comfortable. I'm
right.
comfortable.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
more like
right
it's-
now you're trying to run all these like I just studied all these sims. Wait, is this the right one that I thought of in this situation? And then you kind of get out of your game.
Yeah.
Kind of situation.
Yeah, I just
There's
wouldn't
merit
want
to
to
that, for
drown
sure.
myself. I wouldn't want to be overwhelmed too
Yeah.
much.
There's a lot to be said for just making sure that you can actually show up and perform at 100%. you know?
Exactly.
Especially, I think if you don't have that much time to prepare, like let's say I don't know if they still do the thing where they do a break before the main event final table, where like
no.
a 1 day break. But
One day, yeah.
yeah, so like let's say you have 1 day,
Maybe.
right? The best thing you can do that day, like you basically shouldn't really study that much at all, apart from maybe look at a couple of sims just to get a
Right.
general idea. Just make sure you can go in and play your best, just like relax, like decompress, de-stress, whatever.
Yeah, you're talking on my level here. Yeah, for sure.
Sure, yeah, and I think the longer time you have, let's say something happened where, I mean, Landon had like several months, right?
No,
so
no,
like
it's I think 1 month, right?
About a month, yeah.
Oh, okay, it was only 1 month ago. Okay, so
Well, it was about a month.
yeah, if
month,
you
2 weeks.
if you've got
6 weeks.
6 weeks to prepare or whatever, that's the point where like now you can start to actually structure that 6 weeks. You can say first couple of weeks I'm going to look at like all the pre-flop sims and then so on and so forth, and maybe the last week you just focus on like getting to game day in top shape. You know? So
something
it's-
like that would sounds real good.
I think you can almost with these big final tables, you can start to prepare like an Olympic athlete where you know the exact parameters of the competition you're going to go into, and the idea is to peak at that time. Like you want to
Right.
peak the day of the event, and you have in poker obviously you have to do that mentally. So it's not about physically peaking, it's about like I want to make sure that I feel super confident and I can play my absolute best when I go into it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually sorry, Guapo. Somebody in the chat said that it was being streamed, and they pushed back at me, and I just got a text from a homie. I got a text from a homie that said it's going to be filmed for TV. Most like that
So
last
Guapo was
they
right.
last they heard.
Spreading misinformation again,
Well,
Connie.
Somebody pushed back on me in the chat. It was like some shit
The only way
because
you-
I had said that it wasn't streamed. And he's like, no, it is streamed. And
The
I
only
was like,
way
oh
you can
shit,
watch
was
it live is get your ass to the luxury.
You just
Yeah,
gotta get
man.
down to the luxury. That shit's gonna be popping.
There's still time. Get your ass to Vegas.
I think everybody's here. It's about time. There's a 500 going on right now.
To be fair,
Everybody's
we
here.
literally just found out today what time the doors open. So
Yeah.
we were in the dark all the way up until
Yeah,
yesterday.
exactly.
That's only because Landon just didn't tell you.
I also didn't ask. I know the kids in the lab.
We only
so.
asked him 37 times.
So
And we're like, Landon, what time is the doors open? He's like, so I was in the spot where
Yeah.
I was in the phone blind. I'm like, I don't care about this random hand. Tell me when the doors open. I
God.
need to know
Sorry,
when I
Lee
need to start
Jones.
drinking.
I tried, buddy. I tried.
It's like Hunt said. I need to peak at the right time.
Your drinking form needs
I
to
don't
be
want
on
to get
point.
too drunk before. Like I need to be my absolute drunkest when he's heads up.
outside outside of Landon, looking at the 6 left, who would you take your pick?
I mean, I think Lannis is the biggest threat in the
Yeah.
sense of like he's the guy that
He's been there.
Yeah, right. He's the guy that at least just from the last year or two. Like he's been to a bunch of big final tables. You know
And
that
he's 4th in chips. Is that right?
Is 5th.
5th. Okay.
I think,
So,
it might be 4th.
So he doesn't have a ton of chips, but you know that in terms of performance, in terms of like not being overwhelmed by the occasion or whatever,
He's been to the big show, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he's not gonna like crack under any pressure or whatever. So he's certainly a threat that you want to look at. Outside of that, I mean, Josh Reichard has a bunch of experience, obviously, but you also just have to look at the bigger stacks. You know, Reichard, I think, is second in chips, and it was Dylan Smith that's first, right? So you just have to look at the chip leader and say, okay, the chip leader is the big threat, because that's just the case with any final table.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong. Lonis he just gets it fucking done. But I'm gonna have to go Reichard here.
Oh, you think?
I have to go Reichard.
Reichard.
He's just very fucking good. He's well studied, and he's just like, you know, he has all the chips.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that helps a lot. Like,
Yeah,
it does.
So outside of Landon, I would definitely go with Reichard.
for sure. I mean, I think with the depth of stacks, it could be really interesting because we've only got like one stack of less than 30 bigs, right? So like if that guy busts early, it could be a really long one. It could be like really deep stacked, like 40 plus big blinds with everybody just battling 5-handed if that player busts early. But equally, if some really big pot happens, you know, there's all kinds of things that can take place.
Yeah, talking about really fucking big pots. There was a couple of them last night.
Good segue.
The $1 million
your
cash
segues
game.
are getting so good.
He's getting pretty good at this.
He's getting really good
You
at
guys
segueing.
are fucking up every time. Let me
know,
keep
I
going.
know.
Jesus.
Now you
When
know
there's
what Berkey has to put up with when
there's a good segue,
Shut up.
you just have to let it
segues.
go. Can't point out every time it's a good segue.
Anyway, we had the $1 million cash game popping off at that place over there, and shit was popping. That's like, first off,
Uh-oh. What's happening right
What
now?
is going on here?
Conrad's standing up.
Oh, he's standing up.
this is a
He's got a
standing ovation for Texas Mike.
Okay.
My man is off the fucking rails. You have to see some of these hands he played, but this one in particular is absolutely absurd. So we're going to take a moment and we're going to watch this hand. Are we? Oh. All right, so basically... All right, so this hand comes... I can't even explain it right now. Charlie turns a straight, right? Here we go.
Yeah, he's got the nuts.
Okay.
He got the nuts straight.
Mm-hmm.
My
Good
man,
hand.
Texas Mike,
He
finds
got the 10 deuce offsuit, by the way.
He has the 10 deuce off, finds a check raise here.
He was under the gun? Oh, he's in the straddle.
Mhm.
He finds the check raise here, gets called. River pairs the board, another ace. You know what he does? He finds a check.
Yeah. Well, he's got some bad intentions. Good intentions.
I mean, listen, the shit that he did last night, it was hood.
He blocks no full houses.
I don't know about hood. I just think it's spewy.
What?
Yeah, you heard me.
What?
Yeah, you.
This
heard
is straight. He's doing this for Doyle. He is from Texas.
I think he just found like the right customer here.
The man just jammed
My God.
$1 million in his face with 10 high.
Yeah, this is it takes some balls to do this, that's for sure.
It's absolutely absurd.
It's only $750,000.
What? No, because of the
He
river
raised
bet,
to
right?
300, or
And-
he raised
and
to
he
100,
and he showed it.
734,000.
Okay.
Still.
Absolutely absurd.
joking.
All right. Anyway, moving on. We saw some sick hands. Queen just kept hitting the muck last night. This is what happens when you're $1 million deep.
Yeah.
And
All
you're
of a sudden,
playing,
people shrivel up with queens. Real
like
quick.
this game, everybody just shrivels up, and like, you know, somebody just has whatever. It's the last of the bet. Wait,
You want to stack off $1 million with
so
queens?
let's take a look at this hand. Guapo, please play this hand for the people.
Want sound?
Yes, please sound.
All right, give me 1 second.
Thank you.
And look at this. The game goes four-handed, and we get ace-king suited versus queens. And look at that. Sits back in the chair. Arms closed. That's usually a sign of strength. Cold four.
This is bad. Really? No. God damn you. I feel very targeted. $250. Large.
How much are you playing total?
I didn't have that much to start.
I almost just called the 20.
I'll take this back.
And a pot erupts.
420, like 450-ish more. Run it once.
Figured that much.
I'm gonna show you a bluff.
I don't think so.
I think the range you see here is exactly ace-king suited.
Still 450. I'll put the
Kings
gray ones
plus.
in front, but they're the little ones.
I really think queens is fine to fold here.
Can you still fold?
Me? I could never fold. Yeah. No. I mean, in general, yes. To you, not.
You have other chips right here? Is that you or? Oh, in your pocket.
I'm good.
I think you just throw these queens in the muck. The range
I
you're
can rebuy
seeing,
for 5.
It's true.
I think the range here is way too strong. He's never bluffing. He's never jacks.
If you're gonna jam, you don't need to Hollywood so much because
No, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I want to do.
do the wanna do. Do the wanna do.
We had the straddle on, right? It was 300 big blinds. 350. Oh. Jack deuce.
I have clubs.
You have clubs?
I have a club. I should say I have a club.
That's not good.
I got you club pipped.
For sure.
All right.
Almost said a lot here.
That was
almost
insane.
slipped up. Said I had
King,
clubs.
queen of clubs for you.
Oh, no, I'm a lot stronger than that.
Did you say a lot stronger than that?
Yeah.
Might have saved it. Same
He did
king,
say
queen
I
of
had
clubs.
clubs.
So
yeah.
absolutely wild.
He realized that he fucked
And
up.
he's like, I have a club. I mean,
And then he starts saying like, "Do you have king queen of clubs?" Like trying to pretend like he doesn't have 2 clubs. in his
right?
hand.
Yeah.
Not the biggest.
Correct. If you have ace king, we can run it.
Well, I mean,
Yo, so when
does that
he
mean?
says
Oh,
I have clubs, it sounded so sincere, dude.
Right, yeah.
It was wild. I'm actually so surprised because Mike's like, he's pretty in tune, like with what's going on at the
Yeah.
table. I played with him before. He's like very in tune. And I am so surprised because he wanted to fucking gamble.
Right.
He's like, if you have ace king, I will gamble with you. He ends up finding the fold here. But, dude, I'm so surprised he missed that. Like, would you? If
He might not have, he might not have missed it. He just might not have known if it was real or not. You know what I mean?
So right
I'm
after,
sure he was thinking about it.
right after Steve said, "Well, I shouldn't say that. I have a club."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Mike's like, "Oh, you have a club," and then he honed in on the fact that he had a club kind of later on in the conversation, and it was just like, but he just sincerely told you he has clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where you don't accidentally say that. Like,
Right.
if you have
Exactly.
aces with the ace of clubs,
You would never say I have clubs.
it would have to be a really like sick level for you to deliberately say
Yeah.
I have clubs when you have a pair in your
Right.
hand. Like I think that just sounds so sincere that I would just be like, all right, I guess this guy almost always has ace king of clubs here.
It's pretty sick, dude. Like I was. Well, all right. Let me ask you a question. If he tells you he has ace king of clubs, right? What are you doing?
I think you have to
to get
jam
it in.
because even if there's like a 10% chance he folds, it's so much EV. Like
Yeah, and you're already ahead slightly, and you're and there's dead money in the pot, so it's like it's a no-brainer.
If
So
you-
let me ask you: do you think if he says I have clubs, right, and you believe he has ace king, right? Do you think that you should just call?
no,
Never.
not at all.
No.
Because you just let him realize equity in a spot where you don't need to. You know, even if you jam and he folds, that's an incredible result for you.
But if
Oh, you're saying you think maybe he's never folding, so then
If
you
he's-
call,
if he's
and then
never
when the flop doesn't come with ace or king, you just get it in.
if he's never
and
folding,
deny him his equity there.
if in your head he's never folding,
The problem is like if you can never engineer a situation where the flop comes 10 high and he gets it in, then the trade-off of you not stacking him when he doesn't hit an ace or a king is
Really
so
bad.
big that being able to get away from it when he does is a problem, because obviously he's only going to hit an ace or a king across the entire board like half the time.
Right.
So if a lot of the flops that come out don't contain an ace or a king, and then he just auto folds every time that happens, you're not getting the rest of his stack on those occasions. Whereas there's a lot of occasions where you should stack him if it just comes jack 6 deuce, right? Or and then bricks off. So like stacking him when he has ace king is a big portion of your EV. Getting a fold is also like getting a fold pre-flop is fine. But if you call and you allow him to like get away when he misses and then you get away when he hits, it's basically like you're playing a flip for a smaller amount, but you also can never stack him when you actually do win. Your position isn't really worth anything because the SPR is so low anyway.
Or it comes king high and he just has ace 5 of clubs once in a while.
Yeah,
and now you just fold and he wins somehow.
We're no locking that he only has ace king, right? He only has ace king of clubs.
If he only has ace king of clubs, I think you just have to get it in, because even if he folds a small
get it in and run your equity.
Yeah, just run your equity, realize your equity, because calling and having position in a 1 SPR spot just doesn't even help you that much anyway. And the chance that he folds pre, that's really valuable. Plus, you can get away from it sometimes, but also even the thing is that even when he flops an ace or a king, you're supposed to still win sometimes if you're all in, right? You're supposed to sometimes just river a queen or turn a queen. And you can never do that if you fold automatically every time he flops an ace or a king. So I think you just have to get it in if you know he has ace king.
All right. Interesting. I mean, the trend kept on going throughout the night. We've seen the hand later on where hands limps queen, sees an ISO from Action Dan with ace queen suited. 3-bet for Texas Mike, hands 4-bets to 90K, and then gets jammed on for $1 million.
These fucking names are sending me, man. There's a dude called Texas Mike. There's a dude called Hands.
You like watching wrestling, and you talking about these names?
But these are actual people who go by these names, unironically. If I was just known as Texas Mike in everyday life, I don't know what I'd think of myself.
Then your name would be Mike Hunt.
Yeah, that's a joke. That's a joke I've heard a lot of times. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
It seems crazy for hands to muck his hand here, because hands 4-bets to 90K, and then Mike jams $1 million on him. And this is right after the 10 deuce hand.
We didn't see that hand. We just saw a hand. We just saw a clip of Queen 10 and Jack 10 being in there, or I did at least.
Well, this is the following Ace King versus Queen's hand.
Oh yeah. Okay. This is
Ace King versus Queen.
Here's the action. Hands limps. Action Dan. ISOs Ace Queen suited. Texas Mike 3-bets Ace King suited. Hands 4-bets to 90K, and then Texas Mike jams $1 million.
I feel like these are the types of hands that happen when people are really don't want to have to play post flop. They just really like to get all in pre, because at this depth, the funny part of what's how these hands are supposed to play out is they're supposed to just never get it in pre with anything, because even aces just wants to flat in position at a certain point, you know, because position is so valuable. So there's definitely going to be a point where it becomes kind of bad to 4-bet queens if you're not going to stack off with it. Because the only reason it actually benefits from 4-betting instead of playing post is if you can get jacks to put more money in the pot against a 4-bet, right? So eventually there comes a point where you shouldn't 4-bet certain hands if you're not going to stack off with them. And I think that's definitely something that you see a lot in these deep stack games where people are just I really don't want to have to call and play post in a 4-bet pot with this much money out there, but I know if I 4-bet or if I 5-bet or whatever, and then I get 6-bet, I know he has it, so I can get away. That's not great logic, but it's definitely something that comes up a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, man.
These are sick games.
I'll tell you one thing. If I saw a 10 deuce off 5 minutes or within the last couple hours in that semi type of situation, my queens are not going in the muck.
Yeah, we've got to get you one day. We've got to get you in these games, Connie. I really feel like you'd be incredible value in a game like this, just in terms of what you would bring to the table. I'm all in favor of Connie being given these opportunities to go out there on the stream games.
Maybe one day you'll be the loose cannon.
One day we'll have some fun. We'll
loose
see.
cannon Connie.
Wow.
It got a great ring to it.
I don't know why I didn't play that.
Loose Connie.
That's
Sit and go? Yeah,
sit and
for
go.
it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're eligible, are you?
Oh yeah, I wasn't. You're right. I forgot. I forgot. I wasn't allowed to
You
go.
should have tried to play the casino employees event. Like I saw Caitlin Kameski was out there playing the casino employees. I was like, how are you a casino employee?
Like I didn't max late reg it.
You did?
Yeah.
You played it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I work for PokerOrg.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's what I was thinking. That's good. I'm glad you got your EV out of that.
You know,
How'd
not
you
really.
do?
Yeah. Final results last night. Peter won 1.5 million. Mike wins 500K.
Okay.
Hands won 225, and Juan was the biggest loser at just shy of $1 million.
Oh my.
995,000. He got stacked in $1 million pot with trips. Jack 10 against Queen 10 on 10-10x, whatever. Or something.
That's rough.
Like that. It's just
It's a rough one.
It's rough.
What's kind of sick is I think he's still up because I think he won piles in the last one, right?
There's a couple more nights left. I want to count my boy Juan out. He's always out there, but he's in the muck. We should get into it too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into that mock.
We should.
Oh no. Oh no, we find ourselves here once again with a repeat customer. El Guapito is in the muck today.
No.
Oh man, so Guapo came by to the academy. He was playing on the live stream, and you know we got some hands. We got some stuff here. Guapo, talk to me.
He's definitely in the muck.
I'm really in the
He's such in the muck that he threw in the muck back like
We had to run the intro twice.
He's in the production mock.
Okay, here we
All
go.
right, let's watch this.
Okay, we get to play a lot of guessing games here. Love to see Guapo squeeze. I would really, 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 really like to see Guapo make it 150 here. Come on, Guapo. It's like we've taught you nothing. It's like we've taught you nothing. He's been playing so well. I hope he gets flush over flush now. Landon calls the cutoff with ace 10 off.
That's
This
just
hand should
mean.
3-better fold. Guapo calls button with 5-4 suited. This hand should 3-better fold probably.
I love you made a
Dawn
play
calls
book he
the
doesn't
small
like,
blind
so
with
he's
ace-8 of
rooting
spades.
against
This
you
hand
now.
should definitely squeeze.
Yeah, you need to get max punch for your
10-6
mistakes.
4 rainbow. Everyone gets a little bit of something. Megan with a commanding lead here with top pair, top kicker. Guapo cannot fold with 3 to a straight, pair, and 3 to a flush. Now he finds the raise. I don't hate this. This is actually pretty good. Megan's pretty handcuffed. She's just going to have to bluff catch now with top pair, top kicker. Can't start 3-betting these hands. You just run into sets way too often. So she has a very nice bluff catch. 340 in the pot. She's going to have 9-10 behind. Guapo's going to have to shut it down when he does not improve. So on this King of Diamonds turn, he does not have a continue with a 5-4 of spades, so he's just going to check back and realize his equity. That's why you like to bluff with pairs and not just hands like, I don't know, ace-3 of spades in this spot or ace-8 of spades that we saw the small blind have. So this is a pretty clear check back by Guap. What's happening? Oh, Guapo. You didn't want to squeeze pre, but now you're getting all frisky. I think you just have better hands to do this with. That you raise the flop, right? So you're going to have 5-7. You're going to have 7-8, 8-9, Queen Jack with backdoors, all hands that you're going to forget to squeeze pre. And then you're going to have your obvious sets for value, as well as like your King 10 that plays this way on the flop. With one SPR and this run out, I mean, now you have to jam your hand. You don't really have a choice. You've just put yourself in no man's land. You're just kind of like running naked through the quads, and you happen to find the 110 that didn't 2-pair. So Megan's going to have to fold here. She made a good call on the flop and a good call on the turn. Ace 10's not strong enough to call. She'll have better hands. She'll have Queen Jack to call with. She'll have King Jack, King Queen, King 10, Queen 10. She'll have her slow played sets. Even hands as strong as like Ace Jack with a backdoor that didn't squeeze. But yeah, way, 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 way too low down in her bluff catching region. It's a very good fold. I'm not gonna listen. I want to say that in general, Guapo plays incredibly well, and he's by far one of the best players who's come through the academy. And that play is very creative. So I like that he's thinking the way that he's thinking.
I told Guapo to cut this like 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, he wanted
and
to
then
let-
he
make-
said, wait, the best part is coming.
Yeah, you gotta get that in there.
my God.
Cut off the part
I
where Bucky
fall
compliments him.
asleep listening to Matt say that I was one of the better students coming out of the academy.
Somebody
It's
called
so
911.
nice.
If you were
My
just
head barely fit in through the door this morning.
I'll tell you one thing. You definitely didn't see no live tell tape or anything. My God.
If you were
That
just
hand
watching-
on this whole lead thing? Call.
I know.
That was an itch, Sam. What do you think about it, Hunt?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. It's funny. I wasn't on commentary for that, obviously, but I like Guapo's line a lot more than Berkey did. I think it's actually pretty good. Berkey seemed to think that the turn was kind of a point where he had to shut down, but I kind of feel the opposite. I kind of feel like your hand is a pretty decent continue. So it's tricky to know the specifics here when there's a lot of variables in a 5-way flop scenario, but I think if you're going to have any raises on the flop, which is not mandatory by any means, I think it's actually pretty good to just play call or fold in position there. I think 5-4 suited's a really good hand to do it with, and I think once you get called, blasting off is probably pretty decent. So I kind of like the line. Berkey seemed to have a couple issues with it, but I think it's pretty good.
All right. Let's find out what the Wizard says about it.
Yeah.
What we
So
got?
the hard part about the Wizard here is obviously we can't run a 5-way flop spot. So what I've done is I had to do a few things. I had to, first of all, set up a spot where both players have basically a calling range pre-flop, right? So cutoff and button here, heads up, both have a calling range. Nobody has a pre-flop raising kind of a range. I also had to add some hands into the range because ace-10 off was never in that calling range pre-flop to begin with, the one that I did run. So I had to add a few combos in there, had to add some suited aces and things like that. And then obviously the strategies that we're seeing on the flop are based on the heads up play. So I had to just make some assumptions about the flop as well. Now the other starting point was because the range, the flatting range was kind of wide here or wide for the spot. The solver wanted to have 0 bets on this flop. The solver did not want Megan to bet anything out of position against Guapo's range. That aggressively that often, even once the pre-flop raiser checks. So I also had to lock to have Megan bet at least at some frequency. So I locked it for about 25% bets. And you can see it wants to bet a pretty mixed range here. It's a pretty small size. It's like 20% of pot, something like that, which is, I think, a pretty good size multi-way. And then looking at Guapo's response here, I gave him a fairly natural sort of button range for this spot. 5-4 suited is in there. And it does basically mix between raising and calling. And the funny thing that you can kind of see here is basically every single hand in Guapo's range mixes between raising and calling. And this is actually a fairly common thing in multi-way spots as well, is that your range is not often going to kind of divide in a way where you have hands that are clear raises and hands that are clear calls. You have a lot of conflicting incentives in a lot of different parts of your range. So I would respond to this by just playing call or fold when you're in position. I think that's an adaptation I talked about in the course that I have out. In part 2 of that, I'll discuss that. But yeah, I think I would just play call or fold. But if you're going to have raises, you can see here 5-4 suited is a reasonable candidate for it. It does prefer the 5-4 of hearts just because you have that 3 to a straight flush factor going on as opposed to just 3 to a straight and 3 to a flush. But it is mixing the 5-4 spades in there as well. So I think the flop raise is fine. In terms of the continues from Megan here, Bucky mentioned on commentary she can't really 3-bet very often, and I think that's probably true. In fact, what I'll do is I'll actually cut out the 3-bet here because the fact that it's multi-way probably, I think, means that, you know, it's a reasonable adaptation here that she would just purely play call or fold. And if we rerun the turn here with her playing call or fold, obviously ace-10 is never going to fold to the raise. She actually it wants her to have some donks there on the turn, which is kind of weird. But now when we get to the turn, oh, that's interesting. So when I had her 3-betting the flop at some rate, it wanted to continue with 5-4 of spades. And now that I stopped her from 3-betting the flop, it no longer really wants to continue. The EVs are very close together because it is, there's 0.1% here where it bets. But it looks like her having no flop 3-bets changes her range very slightly to the point where 5-4 no longer functions as well as a turn barrel. But you also have to look at the hands that are barreling the turn, and would we realistically have those in our raising range on this flop? And if you take a look at, some of the combos here, first of all, a lot of them we wouldn't flat pre, like ace king off, ace queen off, probably king queen off. We're not doing a lot of flatting pre with here, considering it's actually, I think we were the third caller here, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so it was a raise, 2 calls. You can't really sim that here, so these hands probably should not be in the range at all. And then there's a lot of stuff that raises the flop here that when we account for the hand being multi-way instead of heads up, doesn't function as well. Like, you wouldn't really have much reason to raise like 9s through 7s on the flop here, right?
This is my response versus her stab on the flop. Is that right?
No, this is your turn bet on this king of diamonds turn. This is the flop response here. And if you look at the raising range now, when she has no 3-bets, your raising range is like basically everything. Like, you're almost playing, pure raise here with your entire range. So there's definitely some weirdness going on here because we can't account for the fact that the hand is multi-way. So if I actually lock your raising range and have it be narrower, so if I make it that you're only raising about 25% of the time here, then it's going to perhaps give us a slightly more accurate version of the sim going forward. Now, it is probably still going to assume that you're raising some hands that maybe don't actually function that well as raises here. Like, it still wants you to have like some pocket 7s and 8s and 9s, and in practice, do you really raise those? I doubt it, right? I don't imagine you'd raise 9s, 8s, or 7s here. Is that fair to say, Guapo?
This is correct.
Maybe in February.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think just one of those spots where it's really tough to find. And multi-way, again, if we could account for it being multi-way, those hands probably would be bad raises, right? So this is the thing. Like, if we actually, I tell you what I'll do is I'll actually lock every hand that is kind of a bad raise multi-way, like 9s, 8s, 7s, like all this offsuit stuff. I don't think we should ever raise any of that. Maybe some of the suited stuff here can stay. 3s and deuces, I don't think we should raise either. Probably shouldn't raise 5s. 5s has like a little bit of connectivity there, but basically we'll just force a call with a lot of those hands. So now we're going to get maybe a little bit more of a realistic raising range for Guapo here on the flop. 15% frequency. Megan plays call or fold, and she's now folding a lot of those offsuit hands that would make sense.
What does it have me doing with 7, 8, and 8, 9? Because
on the flop,
I'm raising with those as well.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it does have those raising at some rate. Yeah, like basically mixing. Mixing the 9, 8, the 8, 7, the 7, 6. 7, 6 is not that. Oh, 7, 6 has a pair. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but some of these hands, these are all mixing at decent frequencies. So I think now that we've locked out a lot of the hands that would not make sense to raise, I think this looks a bit more realistic for a multi-way spot. And now we're back to a point where, oh, actually it doesn't want to raise 5-4 at all. Huh, that's funny. It wants to bet the other combos of 5-4, but for some odd reason, it specifically never wants to raise 5-4 of spades. That's definitely an unusual kind of a phenomenon there. I would imagine it just has to do with some small sort of card removal property. But let's say we tell it that it has to raise 5-4 spades every time. Let's just see if we tell it to always raise that hand, like what's it now going to do on the turn. My suspicion would be that if we are raising that hand, it's now probably going to want to use that as a bluff on the turn because it wanted to use all the 5-4 combos as well. So king of diamonds, I've heard check, and then we're going to tweak our size again. It wants us to bet like very high frequency here, which makes sense because we have a pretty good range for betting. And yeah, it's pretty much always betting 5-4. If we get here with 5-4, it's pretty much a pure bet. And in fact, it doesn't want to bet a lot of these 9-8s and 8-7s and things like that. And I think that's an aspect of this spot that doesn't shock me a lot, having looked at a bunch of multi-way sims. And it specifically is because if you look at what region of hands we're targeting in Megan's range when we bet, the stuff we want her to have so she can fold is basically 8s and 7s and like a missed 9-8 and some pocket 9s and things like that, right? We really want her to have these hands, or even like tiny bit of pocket 5s and stuff. But basically you can see that having an 8 or a 7 or a 9 in our hand is kind of bad for our fold equity here. We really don't get a lot of folds if we have that portion of the deck in our hand at all. So that's kind of why I like having like a set blocker here, like a 6-5 or a 5-4, because we unblock all of that region of 9-8-7 type combos that are probably going to be forced to call the raise, but then are just going to always fold the turn. Like unblocking folds is really important when ranges get narrower and when we're going multi-way here. So that's part of why I like the 5-4 on the turn. And then she calls, and the river was the queen of spades, right?
Yep.
So we're going to get to a river where she just pure checks, and then we pretty much have a shove or check strategy, and 5-4 is pretty much pure jam.
Let's
right?
go.
So not really any reason to not jam this hand. The weird part, though, is that there are some hands here that are certainly going to be pretty tricky to bet on the turn. Like Queen 10, like a super thin turn value bet there. Tough to bet that. Tough to bet like, well, I guess we can bet Queen Jack. Tough to bet maybe like the Ace 4. Ace 4 of diamonds, right? I guess that's a 4. So Ace 3 of diamonds, Ace 3 of, or not diamonds, Ace 3 of clubs, Ace 3 of hearts. You flop the back door, you raise the flop. You just, you miss the turn altogether, but you just fire it off because you have high card, low card. You unblock all that 9-8-7 stuff. So that's a tough one to find. So
yeah,
challenging spot. But like I said, I liked your line. I thought it was good. Was there anything that did it go through your mind to check the turn, or were you basically just like, okay, this is a good barrel spot?
When the overcard hit, my first instinct was I was trying to think about like what her range looks like when she calls my raise on the flop.
Yeah.
Like we're still multi-way. Like my line looks pretty strong. So I'm assuming she has stuff that she gets sticky with, like 8s and 9s. She's gonna have like the Jack 10s, the 9 10s, the Queen 10s, maybe the Ace 10s.
Mm-hmm.
So the overcard didn't feel great. But at this point, I'm just telling myself, I have a lot of sets here. I'm gonna put her in a tough spot. If she happens to have 2 pair, I think I'm going to hear about it on the turn. I don't expect her to slow play there. So when the queen hit on the river, it was I already had my mind set up. Like the money's going in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think once you get called on the turn, your hand is a very good blast off on basically every river because you now you're blocking enough sets that you just you have a hand that functions quite naturally as a 3-street bluff here. I think that checking this turn with this hand, because you do have that unblocking against all the stuff that's folding, and you also block the set, like these bottom pair hands, they do just function really well as your blast offs in a lot of multi-way spots. But the other thing that I would say is you don't need to raise the flop in the first place. I think that if you look at the EV, even heads up here, if we compared the EV of playing...
My reason for raising on the flop was she made such a small bet, and we were still, I think, 4 or 5 handed. I don't necessarily want to go to a turn with that many people still in the pot. When I raise there, I think I'm just ISOing, and when I'm just heads up and I'm in position, I'm feeling pretty good.
I think the trade-off there is that if you raise like a lot of your strongest hands there in position, you now have a super capped calling range. So it's the same. It's sort of the equivalent of pre-flop. It's the reason why when we are calling, or when we have a calling and a 3-bet range against an open, we don't like pure 3-bet every single strong hand. It's because we're very vulnerable to squeezes if we only call with a super capped range. So it's kind of the same here. If you have raises and then calls on the flop, it's really difficult to build both of those ranges in a way where your raising range has enough bluffs in it and a lot of board coverage, and then your calling range is not super capped. Because I think for a lot of people, their calling range here would basically be they have like a 10 is the very top of their range, and they have a lot of 6x, a lot of 4x, they have some gut shots and things like that, but they literally never have a set. They can't have any 2-pair here. So the players behind, of which there's now 3, who all have check raising ranges to some degree, they get to do more check raising because of how like unprotected your calling range is. And it's possible they just don't do that in practice and they just wouldn't punish you for that. But I think if you look at the way that your overall range is going to play on the later streets, and how many good spots you can get into when you do actually simplify your approach to just basically playing call or fold with each hand in position, I think you don't really struggle to get to like create big pots when you have strong hands. Like your sets and stuff can still stack off on later streets here, because the value that you don't get from not raising is compensated by the fact that sometimes you call the button with a set, and then a hand behind you will raise in a spot where if you had raised, it would have folded, right? So sometimes if you call, 8-9 is going to raise in the blinds, where if you raise, 8-9 folds. And so there is a trade-off there. So if you look at the EV, I would probably imagine it's basically the same.
Yo, Hunt, you got to relax, man.
What do you mean?
We can't be giving out all these gems.
Yeah.
Listen. If they want these gems, man, we got to stop now. They can go on over and see your new course, Theory in the Chaos.
By the way, the rest of the course is going to be up later today.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
that's
so-
amazing.
And if you go in the next 2 days, you can get 50% off using code CHAOS.
That's right.
There you go.
Look at you. Solve for y.io.
Almost
So
had
get
it.
on over there.
Almost had it.
You guys fucked me up again.
Hold on, we got to put a bow tie on this real quick.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
So
Let's
the bow
go.
tie on it. Yeah, this is the bow tie here, was that if you play call or fold here, even heads up, you lose. It looks like the EV loss was like 0.15 big blinds of EV. So, tiny EV loss even heads up. And then multi-way, when you've got more players left behind, I think playing call or fold in position here is really good.
All right, so not a tragedy. I played the hand. Okay.
No, I liked your line. Like I say, I think that if you're going to have raises on flop, this is a good candidate. And I think blasting off is okay. But
squeeze pre-flop.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
caught that.
it's close. Like,
It didn't feel intuitive. I got to be honest. Like when I had 4-5 there, out of the three options, I felt like calling was number one, raising was number two, and then folding was number three.
I think that folding would probably be an error. Yeah, I think maybe the main reason for squeezing pre is as soon as you see Megan's range there, you might be able to make the assumption that it's a little too wide, and particularly if you know she can have ace 10 off there, it becomes a slam dunk squeeze because her range as the second caller is super unprotected and probably way too wide if it includes ace 10 off. So the wider her range gets, I think the more incentive you have to squeeze.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And on that note, we are heading down to the Luxor, 4 o'clock. Landon's getting it popping. It is not on stream once again, but if you want, come on down to the Luxor. It's open to the public. We're getting it popping. Brian's going to be blacked out drunk by the time we're heads up. And I'm going to be putting people in body bags. I'm going to get little pictures of everybody and just a bag and just put their graves.
Oh, that's genius.
I know. It's really,
Wow.
gotta get a good celebrations, We don't have any shirts or anything because we suck.
I know.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Matthew Hunt, thank
let's
you
get it
again for
poppin',
taking the
squad.
captain's
Oh,
chair. We
baby.
appreciate you. Thank
happy
you
to
very
be
much.
in the captain's chair.
All right. On that note, we will see you guys tomorrow. Same time. What was today? 11? 10?
10:30.
10:30.
10:30.
We will be back at 10:30 tomorrow. Come get it popping. Later, squad.
Peace.